Tennessee's going to have their spring game this upcoming weekend. We're going to preview it as well as give you some predictions for what we think is going to happen on Neyland on this upcoming Saturday. Make sure you are subscribed if you're a Tennessee fan. We will also have a reaction for you from the spring game. I understand now, not being broadcast, so we're going to make sure we're tapped in with all the intel over at VolQuest and the powers that be around Tennessee. So make sure you're subscribed to get all of that after the fact if you're not actually in the stadium. But if you are in the stadium, then we're going to react to what happened in the stadium. But to preview this a little bit here before we get rolling, I think the thing that you're probably watching most closely if you're a Tennessee fan is what does number 8 look like? Because Nico Yamaleava, when he got to campus, he's supposed to be the second coming of Peyton Manning, take us to a national championship. And if you were to zoom out and just look at the story arc, Nico got you to the college football playoff last year. But you also are saying, hey, if we want to get back to the college football playoff, it's probably going to take a little bit more from Nico. So what I'm watching here in the spring game is what is the overall progress that he's made from last year to this year? More specifically, how does he look in the pocket? And it's sort of a nuanced thought here, but roll with me. A lot of the best quarterbacks in college football, what do they all have in common? They have a certain speed to themselves. Yeah, they're quick, but they're not in a hurry. Cam Ward was great at this a year ago. Jaden Daniels the year before that. Quinn Ewers, when he was at his best, he didn't look like he was too flustered. So Nico Yamaleava a season ago looked a little bit jittery feels like the wrong word, but there were times where he felt maybe a little bit sped up, a little bit wound up. Like he knew where to go with the football, but he was trying to think maybe too much when he was out there on the field. Some of that probably could do with the wide receiving core. Some of that could be tied to the offensive line. But in a spring game where you've practiced against the same defense now, going on 15 practices, and it's all should be pretty well scripted out for you. You should be pretty familiar with what you're looking at. I'd love to see Nico just look in control, in command, not be too rushed, and have total command of the offense. That was the intel we got out of one of the most recent spring scrimmages for Tennessee. So if that carries over to the spring game, that would be exactly the kind of intel I'd be hoping to get if I'm a Tennessee fan. Now, what does the defense look like? Because you don't have everybody back from last year. You lose some key pieces, but they're still right around, over half the production back from last year's defense that got you to the college football playoff. Now, the unfortunate part about spring football is you, for Tennessee in this situation, won't have a totally healthy starting 11, it looks like, for this spring game. Got to kind of pick how you want to view this. On one hand, you could say, well, I wish we had our starting 11, and that'd be very much so within your right to say that. But I also think this is a great opportunity now to look at the depth pieces for Tennessee. Because if Nico, going back to what he was last year, if he doesn't take this massive jump forward, then going back to the college football playoff, probably looks like the defense leading the charge for the second year in a row. And so while you hope that Nico's able to elevate and all those things, this defense is going to be, as you assessed it during the spring game, kind of like when you pack to go over to a friend's house. You pack the extra polo shirt just to make sure you have it. You hope you don't need it. You hope Nico's awesome and that your what you pack is already good to go. But if you need it, you'd like to have it, and you're going to find out what you have here. I think in the spring game, at least have a good gauge for the depth, especially in the SEC with what that schedule is. You're going to make sure that you are well resourced there on that front. Now, David Sanders is a 5-star true freshman. Been on campus for 45 seconds, rolling with, I believe it's the 2s right now. I'd expect him to get some burn with the 1s when it comes time for the fall. I think he'll rotate for a period of time at right tackle. But I just want to see how he looks against some live competition. I want to see how he looks there in a big-time atmosphere. Because Neyland, they got some construction going on over there, but it still should be right around 45,000 strong in that stadium. That's still going to be the most, I would have to believe, intense environment David Sanders had to play in. So it'll just be cool to see the guy in a game uniform, cool to see him out there in Neyland Stadium. But let's make sure if we're Tennessee, we view this as a progress check for my guy. It's not going to be a finished product, okay? 5-star guy, all the talent in the world. He definitely is the future for you on the offensive line. I think he'll be the right now for you on the offensive line, if we're just going to be honest. But understand, this is still practice 15 of the spring. This is practice 15 of David Sanders' life as a college football player. Just want to see him do some good things, have some good reps, win a few battles, and we'll go ahead and take that progress, roll it over into the fall, and understand that this is not at all a finished product when it comes to David Sanders. Maybe as importantly, as we speak to David Sanders, he kind of symbolizes that next step of the Josh Heupel era, from what I can gather. Like Josh Heupel, we say this a lot on this show, always going to be able to attract the quarterback, always going to be able to attract the skill players you would have to believe on paper by how they run that offense. The next step to beating the Georgias and beating the Texases of the world is going to be, can you have the big boys up front? the 5-star caliber players like a David Sanders and also on the defensive line to be able to go win national championships, which I have to believe is the goal out there in Knoxville. Now, in order to get that done, the other thing you got to have is what I just spoke to, the skill players. They've had it historically at Tennessee. Last year left a lot to be desired. I want to see somebody step up in that receiver room here this spring game, man. Because you blame Nico, and I think Nico deserves some blame, but make sure before you give him 110% of the blame, you ask yourself the question, was anybody open downfield? Do we have guys in the right spot? Is the receiver room batting 1,000 when it comes to their alignment and assignment and technique? If they're not, then we got to make sure we shore that up a little bit here, because there's a lot of names that you like if you're a Tennessee fan. Chris Brazzell, I think, is a dog for you. Braylon Staley, you've heard great things about this spring. Travis Smith is a freshman who had a great scrimmage throughout this spring as well. But can somebody just step up during this spring scrimmage, during this spring game, and just prove they're going to be a guy for you in the fall? I don't need you to take over. I don't need you to go for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. I just want to see somebody step up and say, okay, we can count on that guy in the fall. Okay, that looks like a little bit of a progress point for a one Mike Matthews, for all the names I just mentioned. So to give you some predictions for this spring game, I got 2 of them. One, I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you're not going to see a lot of Nico Iamaleava, but I do think what you get from him provides a drive that allows you to just exhale a little bit. Doesn't mean that you feel totally different about your offense from the spring up until the fall, but I do think he gives you something that shows you, okay, another year in the system. He is more comfortable. He is more confident. He's in control. He does have everything more dialed in with what they've been doing out there during spring practice. I think you get a drive like that from him. I don't expect him to throw double-digit passes. I don't think he'll have a massively lengthy spring game, but I do think he gives you a drive that just allows you to breathe a little bit easier as you move into the summer and into the fall. Now, the headline, I think, from the Hard Count Herald, when you turn that thing open on Monday, be about Chris Brazzell and what he does in the spring game. Brazzell, razzle-dazzle, baby. Big 6'5", 200 pounds. I told you a second ago, need a wide receiver to step up. Somebody needs to step up in the spring or in the fall. Might as well be in the spring game. Okay, so I think with what he is now going into his second year at Tennessee, when he was at Tulane, he averaged 16 yards a catch. There was a reason they brought him to Knoxville. He's supposed to be, I believe, one of their explosive threats. I think he gives you a couple of moments now throughout this spring game that say, okay, Chris Brazzell, that's different than last year. That's a good thing for us on this offense to actually maximize what this thing is supposed to be. Chris Brazzell provides some, oh, that's different kind of moments for you if you're a Tennessee fan. So, again, crack open the Hard Count Herald on Monday, and that should be the headline you get there, courtesy of our very own Caden Smith, making that thing happen there, making this whole show happen on the 1s and the 2s. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. Again, if you're a Tennessee fan, make sure you are subscribed. We'll have reaction for you after the spring game. Keep it locked right here. We appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.